Are you a long-time D&D GM looking to run a different system? Or are you a player simply tired of being a hero all the time? If you want a game system where the stakes really matter and you're an ordinary human being fighting against insurmountable odds with a high risk of dying and going insane, then you want to be playing Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is one of the world's most well-known role-playing systems. In it, you play investigators fighting against the Cthulhu mythos. While it's most commonly set in the 1920s, Call of Cthulhu can be played in any time period from the Neolithic to the future. I particularly love playing it in the 1890s Gaslight period because Gothic horror investigations are so atmospheric. And look, before I get too far into this video, I have to say that I might be a little biased because I just joined the editorial team for Chaosium to work on Call of Cthulhu, and I kind of write Call of Cthulhu games for a living, and I've even won an Emmy Award for it, for my game The Well of All Fear. But the thing is, I write these games because I love this system. So years before I thought of doing this professionally, I started as a player. I still remember my first game where we had to figure out what was going on during a cult ritual on an island. I was facing down this burning tower while a group of cultists literally chased us around with pitchforks. I was terrified my character was going to die. And then the craziest thing happened is that the group of us went back in time and did it all again. And it was one of the first games to ever surprise me, and I just fell in love with it straight away. I love the idea that the world wasn't perfect, nor were the characters. You could fail in Call of Cthulhu and still tell a great story. I also love just doing stupid voices and pretending to be someone else for a few hours, and I really just wondered where this game had been all my life. And I think looking back on it, there are a few main reasons I fell in love with Call of Cthulhu. And the first is that it's a storytelling heavy system. So while there is combat, the emphasis is on solving mysteries. These mysteries are often based at key points in history which weave their way through political turmoil in places from Japan to Johannesburg. I am a huge history nerd. I'm just a nerd in general, if you hadn't figured that out. And for me, I love exploring the world in different time periods and hopefully learning a little bit about history at the same time. In terms of storytelling, I also appreciate that the sanity mechanics provide a vehicle for exploring the impacts of horror. In real life, we don't go through horrific circumstances without being changed. And the same goes in storytelling. It's important to play out the full impact of events on characters, not just glossing over a death or witnessing a creature from beyond, because that's not how characters change and develop. And if you want powerful storytelling in your games, your characters have to change and be changed by the story. Personally, as someone with a mental health condition, having a sanity-based mechanic gives me a vehicle for expressing things that I sometimes find hard to talk about. And what I think is the most important aspect of this as a storytelling system is that you play as an everyday person. And this is what separates Call of Cthulhu from other systems. You have limited hit points and you will be affected by the things you see. You are not superhuman. You're only doing your best against seemingly insurmountable forces. And as a game writer, that leads to some really meaningful storytelling. It's all well and good to stand up against evil when you're equipped with powerful spells. It's even more powerful to stand up against evil when you're a normal human being. And yes, you can also just goof off while trying to lasso a cultist from a vintage car, if that's what you want to do. The second reason I love Call of Cthulhu is that it is a very flexible system. While the idea of a horror role-playing game might turn you off, not everyone is into horror, you can alter the story to fit the horror level of your players. So if you want to run a body horror campaign full of slimy, squeaky creatures, you absolutely can. But you can also run the game as an investigation with no horror at all. And I think it's important to remember that horror exists on a spectrum. You know, there's everything from gothic ghost stories set in mansions to the David Cronenberg experience. One of the most awesome things about Call of Cthulhu is that there are no limitations on the type of character you can play. So it doesn't matter what race, gender, or career you choose to have, the sky is the limit. If you can imagine it, you can play it. If you want to play a former criminal turned dog breeder armed with a sword cane, you absolutely can. You are only limited by the number of skill points you can allocate. Finally, Call of Cthulhu is really easy to pick up. You do not need to memorize 15 tables or do quadratic equations to calculate damage. There are a lot less complicated rules and dice math, which means you will be playing the game a lot faster. It's a D100 system where your main aim is to roll under your skill set, and the skills are clearly labeled. So if you need to climb a wall, use climb. If you need to throw something, use throw. So I have run this game for absolute beginners, and everyone has picked this up in the space of the game. And if you're a time-poor GM or keeper of arcane lore, as we call it, there are heaps of scenarios and one-shots to get you started. Both Chaosium and content creators on the Miskatonic repository, like me, have hundreds of scenarios in various time periods ready for you to run with handouts and pre-gen characters. And now for a not-so-subtle plug for my own games, The Hammersmith Haunting, Resort, and The Well of All Fear, which are all available on TTRPG. Buy now. The amazing thing about this is that you don't actually have to buy anything to get started. I know I just said buy my games, but Chaosium have their quick start rules for free on the website, and I will pop a link to them in the info box so you can have a look at them today. But if you want to learn the system, I really recommend picking up the starter kit. It takes you through all the rules in a structured, fun way, learning them first for yourself, then running a scenario for one person, and then running a scenario for a group. And that's how I started out running Call of Cthulhu, and look where I am now. So have I convinced you to try Call of Cthulhu? It's a brilliant, flexible, and most importantly, fun system for players and keepers. So go and grab those quick start rules, grab yourself a free game like the Lightless Beacon that is so much fun, and tell me how it goes. If you want to see more game content, more tabletop RPG stuff, hit me up on that subscribe button, press the bell icon, and I'll catch you later.